Daniel Carter had learned a long time ago that life rarely asks permission before changing everything. Sometimes it happened with a phone call at 2 in the morning, sometimes with a doctor's appointment, and sometimes with a woman standing in the doorway of his office at nearly 9:30 on a rainy Thursday night, looking directly at him and asking a question he never expected to hear. "Do you want to stay tonight?" Daniel froze. For 3 full seconds, he simply stared at her. Then he looked behind her, as if she might have been speaking to someone else. There was no one, just him and his boss, Victoria Hayes, the most intimidating woman in Hayes and Carter Financial. Correction, Hayes Financial. Daniel still wasn't sure why she had hired him 6 months earlier. He didn't have an Ivy League degree. He wasn't from a wealthy family. He didn't drive an expensive car. He had never attended one of those private networking dinners where everyone shook hands while secretly calculating each other's net worth. He was simply a 34-year-old single father trying to keep his life together. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was waiting for him at home. His rent was due in 11 days. His refrigerator was making a strange noise, and his bank account had exactly $412 in it. So when Victoria asked him if he wanted to stay tonight, his brain immediately went somewhere it absolutely should not have gone. He blinked. "Stay tonight?" Victoria's expression remained perfectly serious. "Yes." Daniel swallowed. "I'm sorry, but did you just ask me if I want to stay here tonight?" "Yes." He glanced at the clock on the wall. 9:27 p.m. And he looked back at her. "Because if this is about the quarterly reports, I should probably warn you that I'm already running on coffee and poor decisions." For the first time that evening, the corner of Victoria's mouth moved. Almost a smile. Almost. "You're always joking when you're nervous." "I'm always nervous." "I know." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Okay, this is officially the strangest conversation I've had with my boss." Victoria stepped into his office and closed the door behind her. That made his heartbeat increase. Not because he was afraid of her. Well, maybe a little. Victoria Hayes was 32, brilliant, wealthy, and famously impossible to read. She had built the company's investment division from almost nothing after taking over following her father's retirement. Employees whispered about her in hallways. Some said she had never cried. Some said she had fired a man for being 12 minutes late to an important meeting. Others said she once rejected a 7-figure investment because the executive presenting it had been rude to a receptionist. Daniel didn't know which stories were true. He only knew one thing. Victoria had never asked him to stay late before, and she certainly had never asked him to stay overnight. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Okay, I need clarification before I answer that question." Victoria crossed her arms. "Why?" "Because I have a daughter." "I know. She's 6. I know that too. She needs me at home." "I know." Daniel stared at her. "You really do know everything, don't you? I'm your boss." "That's slightly terrifying." This time, she actually smiled. It was small, brief, but it was real. Daniel had seen Victoria smile exactly twice in 6 months. Both times had involved Lily. The first time had been when Lily accidentally wandered into the office during a Saturday work session and announced to Victoria that she looked like a princess who forgot to be happy. The second time had been when Lily had handed Victoria a crayon drawing and said, "This is you." Victoria had stared at the picture. It showed a woman with long black hair, a giant crown, and what appeared to be laser beams coming from her eyes. Daniel had apologized. Victoria had laughed. A genuine laugh. Daniel had never forgotten it. Now, standing in his office late at night, Victoria looked strangely different. Less like the powerful CEO everyone feared. More like a tired woman who had been carrying something heavy for far too long. "Daniel," she said quietly, "I'm not asking you to abandon your daughter." "Good. I'm asking if you want to stay because there's something I need your help with." Daniel exhaled. "Oh." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "You sound disappointed." "Disappointed?" "No." "Relieved?" "Absolutely." She shook her head. "You really are impossible. So I've been told." She walked toward the desk and placed a folder in front of him. Daniel looked at it. "What is this?" "The Henderson acquisition." His expression changed immediately. The Henderson acquisition was the biggest deal Hayes Financial had attempted that year. A company called Henderson Logistics was being acquired for nearly $80 million. Daniel had been working on the financial projections for 3 weeks. He opened the folder. These numbers are different. I know. Who changed them? I did. Daniel looked up. Why? Because the original projections were wrong. He frowned. No. I checked them 4 times. I know you did. Then what's wrong? Victoria pulled out a chair and sat across from him. The problem isn't your calculations. Then what is it? The information you were given. Daniel went silent. Victoria slid another document across the desk. Look at page 17. He turned the page. His eyes narrowed, then widened. That can't be right. It is. Those liabilities weren't disclosed. Exactly. Daniel read the numbers again. A hidden debt. Nearly $12 million. If they completed the acquisition based on the original information, the company could lose millions. Daniel slowly looked up. Who else knows? 3 people. Who? Me. Our attorney. And you. Daniel leaned back. That's not good. No. What are you going to do? That depends. On what? On whether I can trust you. Daniel stared at her. 6 months ago, he would have laughed at that question. Tonight, he didn't. He closed the folder. You can. Victoria held his gaze. I hope so. Silence filled the room. Rain tapped against the windows. Daniel looked toward the city lights. He should have been thinking about the acquisition. Instead, he found himself thinking about his daughter. Lily had been waiting for him every night since he became her only parent. Her mother had left 3 years earlier. Not died. Not disappeared mysteriously. She had simply decided she wanted a different life. One without school lunches. Without bedtime stories. Without emergency room visits. Without a little girl asking when mommy was coming home. Daniel had never told Lily the whole truth. He had simply said that sometimes adults made choices they couldn't undo. And Lily, being 6, had accepted that answer. Mostly. Daniel had promised himself he would never let his career become more important than his daughter. That promise was the reason he sometimes worked until midnight. Because keeping a promise required money. Rent required money. Food required money. School required money. And a 6-year-old somehow needed 37 different types of glitter. Daniel sighed. Victoria noticed. You should go home. I know. Then why aren't you leaving? Because if I leave now, I'll spend the entire night wondering what you're going to do about this. Victoria's eyes softened. That sounds like your problem. It probably is. She stood. Daniel. Yes. You have no idea how rare it is for someone here to say no to me. Even noticed. Most people tell me what they think I want to hear. And you think I don't. I know you don't. Daniel smiled. I'm too tired to lie. Victoria almost laughed again. Then she looked at the folder. I need someone I can trust. You have lawyers. Lawyers protect companies. She looked directly at him. I need someone who protects people. Daniel didn't know what to say. His phone suddenly vibrated. He pulled it from his pocket. A message from Lily's babysitter. Daniel read it. Lily is still awake. She says she wants to show you something when you get home. He smiled. Victoria watched him. Your daughter? Yeah. She's awake? Apparently. What does she want? Daniel chuckled. Probably to show me a drawing of something that looks like a dinosaur, but somehow has a kitchen. Victoria smiled. That sounds important. It is. Daniel stood and grabbed his coat. I should go. Victoria nodded. He reached the door, then stopped. He turned around. You never answer my question. What question? What exactly did you mean when you asked me if I wanted to stay tonight? Victoria stared at him for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, she looked embarrassed. Daniel had never seen that expression on her face. I meant the office guest apartment. He blinked. The what? There's an apartment upstairs. I sometimes stay here when I work late. Daniel slowly nodded. Oh. Victoria folded her arms. You thought I meant something else. No. You did. No. Daniel. Fine. He raised both hands. For approximately 5 seconds, my brain made a terrible assumption. Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. And Daniel smiled despite himself. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Victoria. He opened the door. Daniel? He turned. Victoria's smile had disappeared. If you tell anyone about this conversation, I'll deny it ever happened. He grinned. Your secret is safe with me. He walked away. But neither of them noticed the man standing at the end of the hallway. Richard Hayes, Victoria's older brother. He had heard enough, and the look on his face made one thing clear. He was not amused. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the office at 7:42. He had barely slept, not because of Victoria. At least, that was what he told himself. He had spent half the night helping Lily build a cardboard castle in the living room. Then she had asked him why his boss was pretty. Daniel had nearly choked on his coffee. Why would you ask that? Because she is. Okay. And she smiles when she sees me. That's because you're charming. Am I? No. Lily frowned. Daniel kissed the top of her head. Go to sleep. She had smiled. Daddy? Yeah. Maybe boss lady needs a family too. Daniel had laughed. But now, sitting at his desk, he couldn't stop thinking about those words. Maybe boss lady needs a family too. He shook his head. Absolutely not. He opened his laptop. 3 emails appeared immediately. The first was from legal. The second was from accounting. The third had no subject. Zenda, Richard Hayes. Daniel opened it. We need to talk. Nothing else. Daniel stared at the message. Then his phone rang. It was Victoria. Hello. Come to my office. Her voice sounded different. Serious. Daniel stood immediately. Is everything okay? No. The line went dead. Daniel walked quickly down the hallway. When he entered Victoria's office, she was standing beside the window. Richard was there too. Daniel stopped. Victoria looked at him. Close the door. He did. Richard turned around. So you're Daniel. Yes. I've heard a lot about you. Daniel forced a polite smile. Hopefully nothing too expensive. Richard didn't smile. You worked on the Henderson acquisition. Yes. You found the hidden debt. Yes. Richard stepped closer. And you told my sister. Daniel looked at Victoria. She asked me to review the numbers. Richard's expression hardened. You understand what happens if that information becomes public. It could damage the company. More than that. Richard lowered his voice. It could destroy a lot of people. Daniel said nothing. Victoria stepped between them. Richard, enough. Richard looked at her. You're trusting him too quickly. I trust his work. You barely know him. I know enough. Richard laughed quietly. That's exactly your problem. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Leave. Richard stared at her for several seconds. Then he looked at Daniel. This isn't over. He walked out. The door closed. Daniel turned to Victoria. What was that? She rubbed her temples. My brother believes the Henderson deal should continue, even with the hidden debt. Yes. That's insane. I know. Daniel stared at her. Then why is he involved? Because he owns 28% of the company. Daniel understood immediately. Money, power, family. The 3 things that could turn any business into a battlefield. Victoria sat down. I need your help. Daniel nodded. You have it. She looked up. You don't even know what I'm going to ask. I figured it out. What? Daniel smiled faintly. You asked me to stay last night. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Not that kind of stay. I know. He laughed. She did too. And for the first time, neither of them noticed how naturally they had begun to smile around each other. Outside the office, Richard stood silently near the elevator. His phone was pressed to his ear. She knows, he said. A voice answered on the other end. Richard looked toward Victoria's office. Not everything. He paused. But she has Daniel. Another pause. Then Richard smiled. Don't worry. I'll take care of him. Inside the office, Daniel suddenly felt a chill. He didn't know why. He only knew that something had changed. And this time, it wasn't because of a joke. It was because someone had decided that the single father who had nothing to lose might be the one person standing between them and everything they wanted.